and we're Friends Stream Sports. We are friends who stream sports. We stream sports across continents here. Our dear friend Rutledge, who our friend Peter does know, is not here tonight because, quite honestly, he's probably too embarrassed from having a poor outing in the Super Bowl in terms of trying to pick who's going to win the game. So in Rutledge's place, we have the one and the only Peter Fuller here this evening. Peter, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. How are you, Connor?
We're doing well here. We are excited now that American football season is over. We're here, we're here to talk some world football, which I think is a lot of fun and should be a good time. I will say we did have a slight technical difficulty, so Peter is just joining us via the audio this evening, but nevertheless we've got some fun topics and we will still be streaming some sports. So Peter, fresh off the news, did you see how that Manchester United game finished?
Yeah, I've seen it. In, it, interesting that it took them to extra time, but they got there in the end, I guess you could say.
McTominay with
Yeah,
that late winner for sure. That was wild.
indeed. Yeah, he's looking good. He's a young potential, you'd say, coming through the ranks there. He's chipped in with a few goals recently, um, for them and a couple of important ones tonight.
Absolutely.
Obviously being
And Peter, if you don't mind, maybe holding the microphone a little bit away from your
oh
face, or maybe turning the microphone volume down just a touch, that'd be wonderful. I think we're getting a little bit of feedback on you.
no
Um,
worries.
but and then you had a big game that you were watching tonight. You know, it's not the Prem League is not just the teams in Manchester and Liverpool, but there was a very important game you were watching.
Yeah, so my other half's a big Burnley fan, and obviously we've got it was the FA Cup this evening. They played Bournemouth. Um, didn't go to plan, shall we say?
Hmm.
Burnley lost 2-0 to Bournemouth, so that's their cup run this year over with. She was quite disappointed. I think I was quite disappointed in the Burnley performance myself, to be fair.
I,
But
I I told you what happened during for the Orlando City last year during their cup run, right? The running of the wall.
yes,
Oh
yes, very
man.
much.
Oh man. Well, I know we've got a lot of comparisons to do and things like that. And first up is we have a Premier League game on the screen. We're going to be talking some men's national teams here, kind of comparing schedules for our respective countries, and not just schedules, but respective storylines for our countries. So Peter, I know England has a pretty important schedule coming up this year. What's going on for England? What are the games coming up, and what are the big storylines that we need to be watching out for?
So I think this year the big one for England is the Euros, um, postponed from last year. Um, but yes, the Euros this year are the big ones. We have got some qualifiers for the Qatar World Cup in there as well, but the big one is this summer, the Euros, where England play Croatia, Scotland, and the Czech Republic in the groups, and then obviously they'd have the round of 16 potential quarter final, and the semis and the final. I think the big storyline around that is that if the schedule stays as it is, England will play all three of their group games at Wembley, and the semi and the final are both scheduled to also be at Wembley. So there's a massive opportunity, I think, there for us to hopefully, with if fans come back as well, especially to have a bit of home advantage and hopefully do quite well. I think if you look at we'll have a couple of friendlies beforehand, which look like Romania and Austria in June to sort of get us prepared for that. Um, but yeah, I think if you look at the team and if key players stay fit, there's a really big opportunity this summer to do something sort of quite remarkable.
So it sounds like the more importance this year is being placed on the Euros even than the World Cup qualifying matches. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think so because obviously in for England the we have the two major tournaments. Obviously the World Cup is the bigger draw when we get round to it. But in terms of qualifiers, we tend to do well in qualifiers. We tend to be one of the better ranked teams, playing against what I guess you'd call inferior opponents. Um, whereas doing something major at the Euros, which is classed to us as a major tournament, is yeah, really important.
Yeah, even a run to the finals, means that if you've beaten a Croatia, you've not just in the group stage but
Yeah,
twice, or you've beaten a Germany, or you've beaten a France. So
yeah, definitely.
definitely, when you think about the quality at the top end of Europe, there's some really important pieces there. What's going on with any storylines in terms of positions that Coach Southgate is still trying to figure out for this squad as they not just head into the Euros, but get ready for the Qatar World Cup?
So I think goalkeeping is somewhere he's probably looking at. I think Pickford has been indifferent this season. He's had some good games, and he's had some really not so good games. I think defensively is probably where Southgate may well see his problems. Um, just because whilst we've got the wing backs seem to be locked down in Trent Alexander-Arnold and Ben Chilwell. But I just think that central defensive partnership and sort of maybe that the goalkeeper and that central defender partnership is probably the bit where he maybe hasn't got a set maybe a set people. I think the re-emergence, should I say, of John Stones at Manchester City has been will really help him. I think if Stones can carry that form forward, I think him and Maguire will probably be the two he goes for. I think when you move further up the field, he's sort of got a wealth of potential. He's got a wealth of options, and a lot of players in quite decent form. You look at Foden at the weekend, playing really well against Liverpool. You look at Sterling, you look at Harry Kane, Marcus Rashford. I do think we've got, for the first time in quite a long time, we'll go into a tournament where other teams will worry quite a bit about us, whereas we've maybe gone into tournaments recently worrying more about the impact of their team on us and maybe trying to counteract that rather than thinking, well, we've actually got a team that can do really well. So I think whilst he's got a few issues, he's also got a lot of things that he could be positive about.
Nice. That is good to hear. Yeah, England with their run in the World Cup a couple years ago and their wealth of younger talent, as well as the good veterans, seem to be able to really, have a good run heading in. And it's interesting that you talk about the defense in so many ways. That was the big piece that I still think for the U.S. men's national team is really into consideration here. That needs to be sorted out as we head into the World Cup. That's the big storylines. Well, really, in my opinion, there's two big storylines to be in consideration. Number one is would be the wingbacks. Not only the wingbacks, but the center back partnership. Serginho Dest is destined to fill in for one of those wingback positions. He's played quite admirably for Barcelona this season. John Brooks will probably be that other defender. But just kind of understanding who that other wingback's going to be. Will it be DeAndre Yedlin? Will it be somebody else? could you slide somebody in? That's a big question. But one of the beautiful things about the men's national team right now is the wealth of talent and the wealth of talent playing in England. I think, and in the big five leagues in Europe, I think is really really important. So, which leads to me to my second big storyline is between the World Cup qualifiers and the Octagon, which is what we do over here in CONCACAF because we're a little crazy over here in CONCACAF, and the Gold Cup, which doesn't have the significance necessarily of the Euros. Um, it's which players can Greg Berhalter call over? The January camp, which he had all MLS players, which is a traditional thing to do, but will there be a situation where, due to quarantining and things like that, players can't make their way over um, into the states for a game, or are there MLS players that Berhalter wants to have over that can't make the trip into Europe? So a lot of good questions. I think Greg Berhalter, he's kind of gone on record of saying, look, we're trying to win it all. We're trying to win all our World Cup qualifying games. We're trying to win the Gold Cup, which means beating Mexico, as I'm sure you're well aware. I mean that's the game. I think it's very
Bit of an
important
important
because
one, that one.
United States missed the World Cup. Is we got to get the World Cup first.
Mm.
The talent is there, but where U.S. is at, U.S. needs to play well and qualify for the World Cup. Although that might feel like a low bar, you can't get ahead of yourselves because that's what happened just a couple years ago. So I think that's where
I
the
think
U.S. men's national team is headed as we
I
start
think
this
the
year out.
important I think the important thing for yourselves, I think looking maybe even looking a little bit longer term is it's not. I guess that World Cup will come round fairly quickly, but qualifying for that and having sort of a setup for that will, I guess, you'd look at that as being quite vital because 4 years later, it's obviously there's the small matter of you hosting it alongside Mexico and Canada and I think having some prior experience. I'm not saying that your entire squad will obviously still be playing 4 years later in for the World Cup in the USA, but having some experience of a World Cup in that squad in 2026 when you host will be I think will be huge, and I just think you never know when it's on home soil, when you've got fans behind you. You never know how far into a tournament a country can go. So I do think the next sort of couple of years could be really exciting, and then beyond that, the actually hosting will be amazing. Um,
Oh, absolutely! Cannot wait! Cannot wait for sure.